down the Bayou station, you know, and they would play. No, my brother and I would say it's that chenkity chank music.
KLAB.
Yeah,
In Golden Meadow.
And I guess today it would be like swamp pop. That's what they call it today. But she always put it on midday and would play WWL. They played jazz music. She wanted us to hear it. And, you know, we wanted to listen to rock and roll. If you had the radio on, come on, we wanted to, you know, we were listening to WTIX, so to speak, because they were one of the few stations that was really playing it back then. And to be part of this brand here and to think about, man, as a kid, listening to Saints games on WWL, and that was nothing like Saturday night, Tiger Stadium. If you weren't there, you had to listen to it. It was a different world. You couldn't watch it on TV. You had, if you weren't there, you had to listen to it. And to be part of that with you guys is really humbling for me. Had a lot of opportunities in life. I've been blessed in that opportunity range, but to come here was really a highlight for me.
Mike Detillier, officially a part of SportsTalk, the Cajun Cannon, Bobby Hebert, Mike Detillier. I'm Kristian, Garic, Bobby. I know you've done a lot with Mike over the years.
Well, I know I know Buddy D's smiling down in heaven.
He won the over and under.
Yeah, what he thought of Mike. Now, explain that, Mike, the over and under with Buddy D. Like how long it would take WWL to hire you, or what?
No, listen, I'll be honest with you. He did an interview. Well, he had always told me that, hey, listen, one day when you stop making all that money away from radio, you know, because his deal is, come on, you're making all that money away from the radio game. When you're going to stop, one day WWL is going to call you, and you're going to be part of the pieces there. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. And he was like, no, listen to what I'm trying to tell you. You know, I know what I'm talking about. And I said, okay. And man, I thought about it. You know, that he told me that, I think the last time probably was December of 2004. They did an interview with him for a magazine. And he talked about that, you know, he felt like being on SportsTalk. He was president of the United States. He had all this audience that he would, and people were listening to him. The point after
the squirrels
and you know, the Monday night second guess and everything else, and he said, you know, it got me in trouble in TV because I got a little bit too big for myself, and he said, you know, I got fired, and he spent 1 year working for the fairgrounds, and then they came calling here. He built a second career, really a third career, because he was a writer. He wrote for the Times-Picayune. And then he went on ABC, he went to Channel 6, and then he came here. So it's like a third career for me. So he says, you know what, you're my conscience, you know, because a lot of times, there were times I get hard-headed, I'll get mad, I want to quit. You know, I'm at an age I could quit. But you're always my conscience. I'll call you up and you would talk to me and calm me down. And he said, you know, when you're the president of the United States, you need a chief of staff. You're my chief of staff, but you're never going to get fired. You said, well, most chief of staffs get fired. But he said, you know, you're my chief of staff here. And so, you know, he played a big part in it. And Di and I were talking about this. First time I ever came on, 1983 draft. The draft you would have come out in, Bobby, had you not signed with Michigan ahead of time. Yeah. And there was a rumor. The Saints had a late round pick that year. And Bruce Miller was doing coverage from the Saints camp. And
that's old school.
And he called me and he said, listen, I think they're going to pick Bobby Hebert. And I said, I bet they don't. Because at that time, you only held the rights to a player for 1 year.
Yeah.
And then so I said, no, Bobby's got a long-term deal. Unless the USFL folds, you know, he's staying there. Because, you know, with the money he was making there. Right. You know who they picked? David Greenwood.
David Greenwood, the
punter, who played with you,
Wisconsin safety, and actually when the USFL folded, played with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
So we ended up having the same agent.
But David signed a 1 year contract with an option.
Yeah.
And Bum knew that.
And I never forget, I was introduced to David Greenwood's agent. Can you imagine this visual? It was Glenn Campbell, a cross between Gene Wilder and Barry Manilow.
That's what he looked like.
He got me the largest signing bonus in NFL history when I came to the Saints in 1985, but that's another story. But I look at Mike.
And just think of this. In 83, the Saints did not have a first-round pick.
Yeah.
You know who that second round pick was? He works with us. Steve Court.
Whoa, Jumbo from University of Arkansas.
Yeah.
So when you think about that, but Mike and I, the first time we actually did a show together, and Mike and I did shows now 17 years, and it was 2004 in the draft. They flew me into town because Buddy says I'm getting older. I want you to help me with the draft and with training camp, and I said I want you to help me out. Not doing sports talk every day, but just kind of. The draft and training camp and Mike being involved, second guess and all that. Then lo and behold, God rest his soul, obviously Buddy D passed away. And then that's how Mike and I came together, doing draft shows. Kristian, you've been a part of those shows. A number of people, but the point after, doing that, and then second guess. Now, Mike, that's kind of a stable also, when you talk about the point after, also the second guess when now we've been at the Silver Slipper, and so we've been doing shows 17 years together. So now you basically, Kristian, you have 2 Cajuns and a Marine. To me, as the perfect combination for sports fans in the Gulf South, the Gulf Coast, because it's not just New Orleans. The Who Dat Nation, if you look at the nation, it goes the Florida Panhandle. You can go up in parts of Alabama, up even towards Memphis, and then you look at Louisiana, Shreveport, we got, as long as we keep winning, we got the edge over the Cowgirls. It's kind of 50-50 proposition. And then going all the way to Beaumont, Texas. So you can just see that they can relate to us. 2 Cajuns Marine in the Gulf South. Look, I'm 14, I say 15-year pro, because even the year I held out, I was on the roster. I couldn't go anywhere else, and I was still training. So that's why I say 15 years. Mike is the researcher, look at the scout, all with the deep connections in college and the pros, even high school. We all lean upon him when that comes about. Kristian, obviously you being a Marine, who doesn't respect the Marines? If you don't respect the Marines, then leave America. I mean, come on. I mean, you got to respect the Marines. The bottom line, look, you're a Saints insider, you got strong opinions, and you get to hold the reins now and try and rein in Mike and I, because you know how much a challenge it is when we do draft shows.
Oh, yeah.
There's not enough hours in the show, because Mike and I, there's not going to be any dead air. There's going to be a lot of talking. Now we're going to try not to talk over one another, but there's a lot of opinions that are going to come about, and I just think it'll make the show more interesting going forward, because there's going to be so much information that your head might explode.
And Mike's not just a football draft guy. I mean, he's got some diversity to him. He's got some flexibility. He grew up playing basketball, ran track and field. As an engineer, we're going to get into a lot of that a little bit later on. But it is now. I know we're pumped to have Mike. We're going to get to know Mike a little bit further, the person of Mike Detillier. But if you're just tuning in, Mike Detillier officially now a part of Sports Talk. We're pumped to have him. So we'll get into that in a little bit. We'll step away and come back. This is Sports Talk with the Cajun Cannon, Bobby Hebert, Mike Detillier. I'm Kristian Garic here on Saints Radio, WWL.